I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-a-macabre, it's time for the only news that matters on Kiss Wednesday. Now, Gene Simmons recently addressed criticism from a Kiss fan regarding Ace Frehley's final years. He shared his response on X, formerly Twitter. The Kiss bassist responded to a fan who suggested that the band could have invited Ace Frehley and Peter Criss to their final shows. Simmons disputed this claim directly, stating that the invitation had already been extended. That's a lie. The critics wrote, "You could have invited Ace and Peter to their last shows and made it happen. You didn't. That's on you." Yeah, that guy, that critic, he's right. And I'll explain how he's 100% right. But here comes Gene Simmons with his spin. And it's ironic that he uses the word moron to describe this guy. But actually, what Gene Simmons is doing here is speaking to the morons that will believe this bullshit because they really don't know much about it. It's kind of like you asking me about the P. Diddy trial. If I was to tell you anything about the P. Diddy trial, I'd be lying. I'd be a moron because I don't know nothing about it. And a lot of people that read stuff like this, they're not diehard Kiss fans like us. So they don't really know what's going on. So Gene, in other words, is saying, all right, this one's for the morons. All right, here he goes. This is what he says. He goes, "Here's an example of why the word moron exists in the dictionary." Yeah, they exist for people that eat up your bullshit. Then he says, "This guy has no information and simply makes up his mind about things. Idiot." All right. Fact, we invited both Ace and Peter to join us for the last shows. Both declined. But why did they decline, Gene? Did you bring that part up? And according to Ace and Peter, they weren't asked. They never were asked to take part of the final shows. Now, Gene said it in interviews all along. Hey, yeah, they can come. We invite them. But toward the end, when they were on Howard Stern and the tour was about to end, Paul made it clear. You know, you bring Peter and Ace up on stage with us, you might as well call us piss. That's the truth. That is the truth. But let's say that Gene, did offer them and they both declined. Well, let's say that part's true, that they both declined. Well, why did they decline? Because you didn't want to pay them what they asked. He won't bring none of that up. You know why? Because he doesn't want to wake up the morons. All right. Now, Simmons' response came in the context of his earlier tribute to Ace Frehley following the guitarist's passing. In that tribute, he praised Frehley's legacy and his dedication to fans. The exchange highlights ongoing discussions within the Kiss fan base regarding the band's final chapter and the circumstances surrounding its original members. The tension between Gene Simmons and the original Kiss members reflect the deeper issues that have plagued the legendary rock band for years. Gene Simmons confirmed he repeatedly invited Ace Frehley and Peter Criss to participate in Kiss farewell concerts on December 2023. He did, but then he stopped because they never asked him. Both Ace and Peter said they were never asked. Okay, I tend to believe those two. I really do. Gene did invite Ace and Peter in interviews, like in the press. Hey, you're more than invited to come down. But man, it also sounds like, yeah, come down, but you ain't getting paid. But hey, do it for the fans. Do it for the bosses. Come play for free for the bosses. Something I would never do. So, and basically that's what, I'm sure if they did offer Ace and Peter anything, it would have been peanuts. Just like they were getting when they reunited. Yes, they became millionaires again, where Paul and Gene became multi-millionaires. And I get it. I get it 100%. Ace and Peter were in financial ruin in 95. Kiss came to them and said, listen, we'll make you millionaires again, but you're not going to make as much as me and Paul. I get it. You agreed. Hey man, you gotta take the hits after that, because not only was it the biggest tour of the year, I mean, these people, this was mega money coming in, and they're seeing their share going, well, all right, I'm out of this mess, I'm out of that mess. And then when they pay off everything, out of, the couple million they made, it's, they got maybe a couple million, where Gene and Paul made tens of millions, 20s of millions. I mean, and they look at that and they're going, you wouldn't have made all that money without us too. You know what I mean? Your mindset changes from the original, yeah, I'll take the crumbs, I don't care, to, hey man, I don't care how much I needed money back then, I want more. You know what I mean? But it's understandable. It's understandable because Gene and Paul would have never made that with Singer and Kulick. I mean, or even with, every lineup after the original. Come on, let's face it. Kiss in 96 became huge again. I mean, humongous. So I can accept the Gene and Paul side of Ace and Peter they wanted more money, but they originally agreed to one thing and it turned out to be the other. I do understand that, but this is bullshit. This is pure bullshit. Gene and Paul, especially Paul, Gene is like, yeah, Paul doesn't want him there, therefore I don't want him. I mean, come on. We all know Gene is Paul's bitch. I mean, come on. Everybody knows that. If you're not a moron, well, or you don't have to be a moron that, to not know that much about Kiss. But, those that follow Kiss knows Paul makes the rules, And so Paul didn't want him up there. Gene saying that, he knew. Well, I would do it, but my master won't let me. It's the same thing with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they refused to play with Ace and Peter. But in an interview prior to that, Gene said, yeah, we'll invite him up there. Like, I think he originally wanted, the Scab lineup, and then Ace and Peter can come up and join them. And, Ace was like, what? But, and then Paul was like, no, I don't want it to happen. So then the whole narrative changed with Gene. Yeah, no, we're not going to play it all. Blah, blah, blah. But, so what happened there? Were they not invited? And this and that. Come on. You see, a couple years has gone by since the farewell tour. So, Gene is hoping, since everybody has short attention span, it doesn't remember that, both I remember Peter and Ace both came out and said, we weren't invited to that last show. We weren't. So either they're telling the truth or they're lying. Why would they lie, though? Why wouldn't they just say, no, they offered us peanuts, we ain't going to do it for that much money? Why wouldn't they say that? I totally believe Gene and Paul are at fault. I can see why the original broke up in 2000, but this, come on. It's so blatant. So now, people are starting to wake up too. You know, like that guy that left that comment. There's people out there that do remember all this, that Gene is trying to like rewrite history. The same way he tries to write it by saying that his solo album sold more than Ace's solo album back in 78. Anyway, there you go. That's the only news that matters. Kiss. Always gonna have stories on these guys, man. The bullshit's flying all the time with Kiss. What do you all think? Leave it in the comments below. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Ring that little notification bell. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So, stay frosty. Listen to Shot Full of Rock by Ace Frehley. And schmack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.